Hey everyone, this is Steven with Level 1 Sword. Before we get into the review, I just want to take a second to thank all you viewers out there for sticking with the transition of the channel. I welcome your feedback and wish to make Level 1 Sword into the best channel it can possibly be. Leave your comments, a like if you please, and subscribe to keep up with tons of gaming and visual entertainment news and commentary. And with all that nonsense out of the way, what to say about Captain Marvel that hasn't already been said? The movie is out, the reviews are in, and the opinions on this film seem to be all over the place. Some seem to have picked up this movie and wield it like a weapon in the name of feminism, equality, and social justice. Others have written it off based on some comments made by Brie Larson, the film's lead actress, at a film awards show. And there are still others who came into the movie as objective as possible film critics with some criticisms that land the movie somewhere in the average rating space. So, what did I think of Captain Marvel? Let me say at the onset that I am going to discuss events covered in the first 20 minutes or so of the movie in small detail, so use your own judgment when it comes to me possibly spoiling the opening for you. Captain Marvel fills in some gaps in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It takes place in the 90s, and yes, as expected, it does use the time period to comedic effect at times. We are introduced to an intergalactic Kree strike force, which Vers belongs to, and we learn she struggles with dreams and flashbacks of what could be a past life on Earth, as well as emotional turmoil which her teammates attempt to rein in. After a failed mission to recover a Kree spy, Vers is marooned on Earth where she meets up with Nick Fury and to a lesser extent Phil Coulson, all the while dealing with Skrull infiltrators. What follows is a search for identity and purpose as we are brought alongside Vers, or Carol Danvers as we come to learn, on her journey of discovery. Is the amnesia trope overdone at this point? Yes. Is it done in a way in this movie that works really well? Yes. Watching the trailers for Captain Marvel really left me worried that this movie was going to jump all over the place and the audience would lose sense of time and pacing. I'm happy to say that the film is both paced well and uses flashbacks when necessary and to great effect. The film does seem to favor the plot development over character development for Carol, as we only start to see a hint of her personality as she regains her lost memories, and even what we see isn't really well defined. The de-aging for Fury looks spectacular and unnoticeable after a while, but Coulson looks like he is just wearing makeup. Maybe they felt they didn't need to put as much effort on his appearance since he has maybe 5 minutes of screen time altogether. In any case, he looks noticeably closer to his normal age than Fury does. Much of the criticism for the movie seems to center around the nostalgic gags, and I have to say I don't understand where these critics are coming from. I won't spoil them here, but they are spread throughout the movie and used sparingly enough so that they don't get old. Granted, I don't go to see movies with a critic's eye, and I only at most see half a dozen movies a year in theaters. So maybe I'm less jaded than many critics out there, but I just don't understand the criticism. To sum up the positive aspects of this film, I would say I really enjoyed how the story unfolded. The action was serviceable, the humor was good, there are references to past MCU films that stood out as, cool, they didn't have to do that moments, and the Stan Lee tribute almost made me cry. The film stands shoulder to shoulder with other MCU films in its success as an enjoyable superhero film. As for the negative qualms, I'll start with the least of the offenders. The Skrulls sound bad when they speak as their original green selves. They sound like the dental prosthetics in their mouths are giving them a real hard time pronouncing their words. And this is especially noticeable with Ben Mendelsohn's character. We have a scene where he is disguised as a human and looks like normal old Ben Mendelsohn, and he's able to speak fluently with no issues, only to see him a couple of scenes later as a Skrull and he's clearly having difficulty delivering his lines. Was this not something the production team noticed? Could they have made the false teeth a little smaller to not impact the actor's speech? It makes the Skrulls at times come across as cheap TV monster creatures, which is a real shame considering their significance in relation to the plot. Next up, we have the character of Carol Danvers, which I have to agree with the other critics here. The story is more so plot-driven than character-driven, which probably would have worked better for a Captain Marvel sequel rather than her origin story. But it is used at the main character's expense here. As mentioned before, we only see glimmers of Danvers' personality shine through, and even what we do see isn't really much to go on. In light of the fact that Captain Marvel is inevitably going to have a massive impact in Avengers Endgame, Another movie which is probably not going to have the time to develop her character, I would say Marvel is going to have quite a lot of catching up to do once the sequel does roll around. Now, the biggest criticism I have for the movie is probably going to come as no surprise. I am a white male who is giving a review of this movie despite Brie Larson's contention that there are too many of us reviewing movies, and her quotes along with the manner in which the movie was marketed led me to believe there was going to be an anti-male message. And while yes, there unfortunately is one, it's neither as bad nor at the forefront as I was expecting it to be. The story of Carol Danvers is not simply a woman who has been put down by men her whole life, but rather an overall celebration of the human spirit to not give up and to get back up when you've been knocked down. This is a message I can definitely get behind. And despite the parts of the film which can honestly be described as no less than emasculating, the overall message delivered is one which can be applied to anyone from any walk of life, something I absolutely approve of. I went into the movie convinced this might just be the first Marvel movie I wasn't going to enjoy that much. But the witty banter from the supporting cast, the 90s gags used with good timing and pacing, and the overall positive message left me very much surprised and the exact opposite of disappointed. Captain Marvel gets a 7 out of 10. This has been a review by Level 1 Sword.